A rich woman at a charity auction outbid me on purpose, sneering, "You should know your place." When I let her win, she smirked until I pulled out a VIP invitation and walked straight into the private collector's room where the real prizes were sold. Her face fell as she realized I was the event's secret sponsor. The annual charity auction at the Plaza Hotel in New York City was a highlight among the city's elite. The grand ballroom, with its opulent neoclassical decor and history of hosting illustrious events, was the perfect setting for this prestigious gathering. As a dedicated art collector and philanthropist, I was particularly interested in a rare painting by a renowned artist featured prominently in the auction catalog. The proceeds were earmarked for underprivileged children's education, a cause I deeply supported. Dressed in an elegant yet understated gown, I navigated the room, exchanging pleasantries with familiar faces. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as the auctioneer took the stage, signaling the commencement of the bidding. When the coveted painting was presented, I raised my paddle confidently, placing the opening bid. Almost immediately, a woman across the room countered. Tall, impeccably dressed, with an air of entitlement, she met my gaze with a smirk. The bids escalated rapidly between us, drawing the attention of the attendees. As the price soared, I hesitated momentarily, calculating the value and my budget. Seizing the moment, she placed a bid that exceeded my limit. With a triumphant glance in my direction, she leaned in and whispered audibly, "You should know your place." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. I felt a flush of embarrassment, but maintained my composure. Offering a gracious smile, I nodded, signaling my withdrawal from the bidding. The auctioneer declared her the winner, and applause ensued. As the evening progressed, select guests began moving towards a discreetly guarded entrance at the side of the ballroom. Retrieving a velvet-lined invitation from my clutch, embossed with VIP access, I approached the entrance. The attendant verified my invitation and ushered me into an exclusive salon where the most prestigious items were showcased for a private auction. The ambience here was more intimate, with a curated selection of collectors and benefactors. Unbeknownst to many, I was one of the primary sponsors of the event, granting me access to this inner sanctum. As I perused the offerings, I felt a presence nearby. Turning, I saw the same woman from earlier, her expression a mix of surprise and indignation. She glanced at the masterpieces around us, realizing their significance and the exclusivity of this gathering. Unable to contain her curiosity, she approached. "How did you gain access to this room?" she inquired, her tone laced with disbelief. Meeting her gaze calmly, I replied, "As one of the event's sponsors, I have the privilege of participating in this private auction." Her eyes widened, processing the revelation. The realization that her earlier condescension was misplaced dawned upon her, and she struggled to find words. Offering her a polite nod, I turned my attention back to the auctioneer, who was presenting an exquisite sculpture. Raising my paddle, I placed a bid, feeling the weight of the moment and the subtle shift in the evening's dynamics. She didn't say anything else right away. She just stood there, looking at me like she was trying to make sense of what just happened. Like her brain couldn't connect the dots that someone she dismissed was actually standing in a room she clearly had to fight to even get into. I didn't bother trying to explain myself. I didn't owe her that. I turned away and walked over to a marble pedestal displaying an early 20th century bronze statue from a private estate in Connecticut. One of only 3 in the world. The bidding had just started. A man in a navy blue suit raised his paddle. I countered. Another woman in pearls jumped in. We volleyed for a while until the final bid came for me. "Sold," the auctioneer called out, tapping the gavel. I could feel her eyes on me the whole time. She eventually walked away, probably to try and wrap her head around what just happened. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Later, in the private lounge area, where selected guests were offered vintage wine and first looks at some high-profile sealed bids, she appeared again. This time, she wasn't alone. She was with one of the event's organizers, Mark, someone I knew professionally, but not personally. She was whispering something to him, glancing in my direction. Mark walked over a few minutes later, wine glass in hand, trying to look casual. "Hey," he said, "just wanted to check, are you bidding tonight as a private individual or through your foundation?" I knew where this was going. "I'm bidding privately," I said. "Why?" He hesitated. "One of the guests is asking questions, just making sure there's no conflict of interest." "She's asking if I belong here, isn't she?" I asked, looking directly at him. Mark fumbled for words. "It's just a standard question, really." "No, it's not," I said, "and you know it." I turned and walked off. I wasn't going to sit around and be interrogated in a room I literally helped fund. She didn't stop there. An hour later, during a short intermission, I went to the powder room. When I came back, one of the smaller paintings I had planned to bid on was gone. Not sold, just removed. I asked a staff member where it went. "Oh," she said, "I believe the item was pulled due to a paperwork issue." Something about the provenance needing to be double-checked. That was strange. That piece had already passed authentication weeks ago. I was part of the review process. The sudden issue didn't make sense. Something was off. I walked outside for air. The night was cooler than I expected, the city lights bouncing off the wet pavement. I stood under the overhang, thinking about what game she was trying to play. I was still standing there when an older gentleman approached me quietly. He was one of the senior patrons, someone who'd known me since my first year attending these events. "I heard what happened," he said. "You should know she's been poking around. Asking about how you got here, where you get your money from. Trying to get access to your foundation's board names." "She's fishing," I said. He nodded. "Looks like it." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about the painting. This woman had made it her mission to humiliate me. Then, when that didn't work, she started digging. Maybe she thought I was a fraud. Maybe she just couldn't stand the idea that someone like me was standing shoulder to shoulder with people like her. I didn't know yet what she thought she'd find. But I knew this wasn't over. I went back inside with a new plan. I wasn't just going to let her try to push me out of a room I had every right to be in. And the next time she smirked in my direction, I smirked right back. 2 days after the auction, I got a call from the foundation's accountant. "Did you authorize a funds release to a vendor in New Jersey?" she asked. "No," I said quickly. "Why?" "An invoice was pushed through your access level last night. It looked legit, but something fell off. It's flagged now, but I wanted to check with you." I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't logged into the system in over a week. Someone was trying to mess with my financials. I had IT pull the login history. Sure enough, someone had accessed my foundation profile from an IP address tied to a hotel in Manhattan. The login used my credentials. It was clear now, she wasn't just trying to discredit me in a social circle. She was trying to get me audited or worse. I called my lawyer. He was already 2 steps ahead. "This isn't her first time," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She has a history of aggressive competition. Last year, she had a similar feud with another sponsor. That woman ended up with a small PR scandal after documents were leaked. Nothing criminal, but it was enough to push her out of several board seats. So this was her game. Tear people down until there's no one left in her way. I wasn't about to let her win. I hired a private digital forensics team. They traced the IP to a specific suite registered under a corporate credit card used by her husband's company. Sloppy. Especially since the hotel had a surveillance system with time-stamped access logs. While they pulled together a formal report, I decided to handle things my own way. I called Mark, the organizer, and asked for a favor. "There's a dinner next weekend at the Met, right? Can you seat me next to the donor rep from the McClellan Group?" He paused. "You think they'd be open to talks?" "I think they'd be interested in backing a quiet little project I'm putting together." The McClellan Group ran some of the biggest art-based charities in the country. Quiet, but powerful. The woman who was trying to ruin me had spent 3 years trying to get on their inner circle. She still hadn't cracked it. A week later, we were both at the Met. She was sitting 3 tables away, in a pale silver gown and dripping with diamonds. Still playing the part. I kept my cool and spent most of the night in easy conversation with the McClellan team, who seemed very interested in partnering. I made sure we talked about transparency, digital security, and safeguarding donor information, all loud enough to carry. She kept stealing glances. At one point, she even tried to approach. "Lovely evening," she said. "You're certainly making an impression." I smiled. Just trying to be helpful. There's been a lot of talk lately about privacy breaches. Scary stuff. She blinked. Just once. Then turned and walked away. A few days later, I got an alert from my digital team. One of the hotel's surveillance tapes had been leaked anonymously to a blog known for covering nonprofit scandals. It showed someone same height, same build as her, logging into a public computer in the hotel business center. The angle didn't show her face, but it was damning enough. The post didn't name her. Yet. But it lit a fire under people. The board she was so desperate to impress started whispering. Her allies started distancing themselves. Donations she counted on began to dry up. I stayed silent. I didn't need to say anything. The truth was bubbling up without my help. And then the biggest twist dropped into my lap. The artist who created the painting she outbid me for? He reached out. I heard what happened, he wrote in a message. "Just so you know, that piece she bought, it's not the original." I stared at the screen. He explained that years ago, he created two almost identical versions of the same painting, one as a backup. The original had been sold in a private deal and kept off the radar. The auctioned one was technically authentic, but not the true first version. "I can provide the paperwork," he said. "I wanted you to have the real one." And just like that, the piece she used to humiliate me was nothing but a shadow of what she thought she had. She didn't know that yet. But she would. I didn't rush to tell her about the fake. I let it sit. Let her parade it around to her friends, post about it on her socials, name-drop the artist at events like she had scored the crown jewel. People praised her for winning the highlight of the auction. Meanwhile, I kept moving quietly. I met with the artist in person. He brought the paperwork. We arranged a private acquisition of the original. We signed the deal in a quiet gallery in Soho. No audience. No cameras. Just me, the artist, and a witness. When it was done, I walked out with the real painting. 2 weeks later, the story broke. Not by me. One of the art blogs picked it up after a routine review of provenance reports. They noticed discrepancies between the piece she had and the original record. Turns out the backup copy wasn't meant to hit auction. It was a clerical error from the gallery that handled the listing. She'd bought the wrong one. And then came the kicker. The artist confirmed everything, publicly. He posted the image of the real painting. Already hanging in my home. He tagged me in the post. The art world lit up. Collectors were embarrassed. Her credibility dropped like a rock. A few public figures who'd backed her started pulling out of partnerships. She got grilled in interviews and blindsided at a panel by someone who asked if she always paid top dollar for replicas. It should have been enough. But I wasn't done. At the next charity event, a gala at a vineyard in Napa, I showed up wearing a simple black dress and a smile. She was there too, of course she was. Trying to act like the media hadn't torn into her for weeks. Halfway through dinner, a slideshow began showcasing the biggest donations of the year. Names and faces flashed on screen. Then came a new segment, Behind the Curtain, a tribute to the major silent sponsors who'd kept programs alive. My face came up. My foundation name. The amount we donated, 8 times what she had. People gasped. Some clapped. Others turned to look at her. She froze. And then I got up and left. I didn't stay for dessert. 2 days later, she stepped down from the board of one of the major art charities. No public statement. Just gone. Word got around fast. She'd been caught trying to sabotage someone else through fraudulent logins again, only this time, they had better lawyers and better security. Her reputation was finished. And me? I learned something too. I'd always thought staying quiet and letting your work speak for itself was enough. That being dignified meant staying out of the mud. But the truth is, sometimes you have to get your hands dirty to dig someone out of the hole they buried you in. I wasn't perfect either. I let her push my buttons. I let ego creep in. I used my connections to make sure she fell, and that made me know better than her in some ways. But I didn't fake documents. I didn't try to ruin someone's livelihood. I didn't throw the first stone. I just made sure the last one hit.